I literally take a swig of this tea, 5 minutes later, close my eyes, like I'm like out, and I can picture it now. It's like this enormous, and then I sit up and I tell my wife, I was like, that was the worst thing that's ever happened. And then there's all these like mannequins around, and they're like kind of crackling and stuff. And then all of a sudden, like a light turns on, and it's just all these worms and maggots writhing over each other, and boom, I sit up and I'm like,
Ruslan.
I have done mushrooms in my life. Disclaimer, like, do not do mushrooms, not a good idea.
Cautionary tale.
Yeah, very cautionary tale. This is like a lapse in reason, moment of weakness. I'm an artist. This was years ago. But the idea was like, there's tons of stuff. Like, look at our modern world. Like Rogan is like a evangelist for LSD and DMT, Sam Harris, all these people, they want these spiritual experiences without something. But then the brains of our culture started coming in and being like, oh, psychedelics are a way to heal from depression, a way to heal from addiction, a way to heal from this. And there's this like experimental person in me that's like, well, I'll try. And if it works, I can help other people. I can figure it out. So this is like literally playing with fire. So what I do is we find a place, we measure out the grams that we're going to take, you make a tea, I take a sip, and I have like a demonic trip, like through and through.
And you were hoping to heal what, anxiety, depression, that sort of thing?
I don't know, really. Like if there was to be healing, this is like at that time in my life where I'm like, I don't really know what I'm struggling with, but I just want to fix it. Because life didn't feel like it was coming up. So when I say that like I was addicted to alcohol, I was also looking for salvation. Like it wasn't just alcohol. I did drugs to try to like, and you know what I mean? And like there are tons of stories of people like, yeah, man, I saw like the geometric patterns of the universe, man, and now I know everything's love. I don't buy that at all anymore, like after my experience and after all the reading and study that I've done. So like my trip, I go under and it's like no fun, no like funny colors, no whatever. It's like intense the whole way through.
Like you're being demonized on this trip.
Yeah, like I don't know if I'm being demonized. I'll tell you what happened. The language is very difficult, like theologically, because of my education and the stuff I've read. Like I know, so for example, the reason why divination and pharmacology and witchcraft and stuff is forbidden in scripture is because like you're picking up the phone to the unseen realm and you don't know who's answering. The reason why we have prayer and the spiritual practices is because every time you do those, you do know who's answering. It's the Holy Spirit in you. It's God the Father on the other side. Do you know what I mean? On the other side.
Yeah.
And so I think that some people have these like mediating experiences where like they pick up the phone and it's just like no one. I think sometimes someone picks up the phone and they're like, okay, time to tell some lies. So I have this vision. The first vision, like I literally take a swig of this tea, 5 minutes later, close my eyes, like I'm like out, and it's like, I can picture it now. It's like this enormous city, dark blue. And it's like this mix of like neon future with like stone ancient stuff. And there are these people passing forth and they're trying to get in the city. Like they're fighting to get in the city. And if I kept looking closer and I noticed that the city was alive, like the city was organic. It was a living being and it was like frantic. It was shaking. And it was like desperately looking at these people, like trying to coax them in. And these people who were trying to get in the city had the exact same kind of like frenetic, chaotic energy. But what they wanted was like the power that came from being in the city. And so then literally like I sit up in bed and my wife like writes down what I tell her. And I'm like, that felt like lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, pride of life, like money, sex, power. Felt like power. Like that's what happens. You like, if you pursue power, you're trying to get in, but it's like this frenetic clambering, you're crushing and killing the people all around you. Lay back down, another vision. Second vision is like kind of out in the wilderness. So you picture it, like close your eyes, it's dark. And inside this tree trunk, enormous tree trunk, was like a house, but it was like a party. So like I kind of peek in and inside is like this orgy, just like bodies writhing and they're all like reaching out, trying to pull me in. And there's something like in me that feels this pull. And then all of a sudden like a light turns on and it's just all these worms and maggots writhing over each other, and boom, I sit up and I'm like, that's sex. Like if you give your life to sex, like if you think sex is going to save you, like you're going to lose yourself. Lay back down. I have this like third and final vision and something happens at the end. And the third vision is like this, I'm like pulling these like vegetables or something out of the garden. And there's this like, I feel like I'm being hunted, like something's watching me from like the corner, you know, like you feel like you know, when you're a little kid and you see a shadow and be like, someone's in the house, someone's in the house.
I have a massive update for you. I'm sure by this point, you've heard about the Blessed God Summit happening March 27th, 28th, 29th here in beautiful Carlsbad, California. But we've heard your requests. We've conceded to your demand. There are virtual tickets that are now available for the Blessed God Summit, so you can access it from anywhere in the world, as well as access to the replays. And for those of you guys that are looking for something extra, we're also offering a virtual ticket and an exclusive Blessed God Summit merch bundle. There's some amazing art and some exclusive pieces done by our friend Josh Nadeau from Sword and Pencil that you have to check out. So join us online for the virtual event and experience some sessions from my favorite podcasters, pastors, and performers. We have a stacked lineup. I'm talking about Preston Perry, Dr. Sean McDowell, Inspiring Philosophy. What do you mean? Lila Rose, Alan Parr and his wife Jen Parr. We even have Nate Sala from Wise Disciple, Gavin Ortland, David Wood, Avery from God Logic Apologetics. And on the pastoral side, we have my friend Daniel Golding, Pastor Ed Newton from CBC in San Antonio, and my personal pastor from Rhythm Church, Pastor Jeff Moores and his wife Erin Moores. You won't want to miss out from amazing performances from America's Got Talent winner Dustin Savella, Billboard charting hip-hop artist John Keith, and Miles Minnick. And we're still finalizing a few more speakers. So head over to blessgod.shop, get your virtual ticket now, and you can get yourself a bundle with some of the exclusive merch as well. I'll see you over there, all right? Peace.
Felt like that the whole time. So I'm pulling out these vegetables, and then there's all these like mannequins around, and they're like kind of crackling and stuff. And the idea that I like am overcome with is like I taking stuff up from the ground, and I'll just like sell it to these mindless drones. But they're all cracking and falling apart, and then the vegetables, so like moth and rust, they start cracking, falling apart. Boom, sort of wake up. But what happens in this third and final thing is I feel I saw what all these people see, which is like we're around a campfire, say the size of this table, and there's all these people who are dancing and singing. And they're like, have like a humanoid form. They're all black, but their bones and like their structures and stuff on them that are like neon and bright and shining. And there's something like really primal and ancient about it. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. But all of a sudden I feel like the weight of like the whole universe is like leaning in on us. And so what felt like so amazing, like honestly, looking back, I'm like, if this is what people are seeing, I can understand why they want to have these trips. You're like, yeah, this is ancient. This is primal. They're telling you can be in the city and have the power. You can have sex and find like orgasmic joy, and you can make a ton of money. And then you get to go around the campfire at night and sing and dance and whatever. So I stood up in this little dreamy thing, and I put my hand up and I touched the edge of that universe. I was like, oh, this universe, this way of being is in like, I'm 5'10". When I reach up, maybe maxing out at like a 7-foot reach or whatever. I don't know. I don't have that short arms. So if people Google this, be like, I don't have tiny arms. And then I rip through, and it's just this bright blue, infinite expanse. And then I sit up and I tell my wife, I was like, that was the worst thing that's ever happened. And I thank God in his grace, like gave me these little visions of like the city was alive and frantic. Like the orgy was writhing worms. Moth and rust is going to destroy this primal new age movement that you think is ancient and going to satisfy you. It's like the size of this room. And God's like, I want to give room for good things to run wild. So that there was the worst. Like, people do not do drugs. You don't need that to save you. This was like literally me at the garden being like, I'll save myself my way. And I think God in his grace didn't let me go down the path. When we're trying to frame up what happened to me with my lungs and my health, part of it is like narrative building. You want to just figure out why.
I mean, the way you describe that trip makes me never want to
Bro,
do drugs.
I'm telling you.
And I've never understood that, because you're not the first like Christian I know that's like dabbled in that stuff. And I've never understood it. Like, I guess I'm just like in a place where all that just sounds horrifying.
Yeah.
And I have enough of a spiritual discipline that
Yeah.
like I don't, but yeah, there's been multiple Christians that described similar
Well, like
stuff.
in what you have, I think, is like there's some things like in culture that are quote unquote neutral. And the way that the modern world is gone, it's called like psychedelics, a neutral thing. It's not evil, it's not good, it's neutral. It can be a tool for good. And so you have all the scientists who come around and they're like, yeah, you could microdose, you could do a guided trip, and we can stand behind the traumas that exist in your mind, or we can help rewrite pathways in your brain, and you can like, and there are people who go from like super neurotic, super depressed to being very open and very joy filled. And I don't know what to make of that. I don't really know what to make of this stuff anymore, except I do know that I do not think are neutral, no matter what like the modern prophets and evangelists of them will want to say to us.
Well, yeah, it's like you said, it's pharmakia, right? Like
it's exactly
you're
what it
opening
is.
yourself up to a
Book of Enoch
spiritual dimension outside of Jesus, which I'm with you. I think it's always going to be demonic and dark.
It's going to be bad.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like, so for example, like in processing this down the road, chatting with my brother, chatting with friends and mentors, and like, I mean, having to admit this, like this isn't a fun thing to admit.
Sure.
I don't like being like, hey guys, like I was on the path and then I did a bunch of mushrooms to see if that would help me.
Yeah.
Right. But this is like the path of being like, there are ups and downs, and like, do not make the downs that I made. Don't do drugs. I grew up in the 80s. I'm an 80s kid too. And so like the dare, let's go.
Yeah.
And so one of the things is like people I think do have quote unquote positive experiences.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's the guy who captures kids in the white van. I've got candy in here. It's like the beings masquerading as angels of the light. Like they're not going to come to you and be like, hey dude, we're going to lead you astray and demonize and torture you. So like my vision of it, I think that was a season in my life where I was in between, where I was like apathetic, where like my spiritual walk wasn't tight enough that I told myself the little lies we all tell ourselves. We tell ourselves these little lies will save us, or this isn't that bad, or this will be okay, collateral damage of no one, whatever it is. This was one of them. It was just a doozy of a little lie that was like a big lie.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to comment below and subscribe and all that good stuff. And check out this other video that YouTube seems to be recommending just for you. Let me know if they nailed it. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.